Hello and welcome to the Collapse Experiment. So, before I get started with this video, I had a weird occurrence at the grocery store the other day where I'm wearing this hat. And I don't know if you can see what this hat says and what it is. I kept getting this look and people kept doing double takes and I'm like, I don't know you. I don't know you. And then all this stuff happens with New Year's. And one of the things that came out was the guy driving the truck in New Orleans had a ISIS. Probably can't say that unless I'm talking about Archer the cartoon, because that's who he used to work for until some things happened. But then I realized black hat, white writing, that if you don't know the difference between Japanese, katakana, and Arabic, you might think it's something it's not. So, should I get rid of the hat? I don't know. It's in English. It says Cowboy Bebop. So, I don't. It's one of my favorite animes. Like, they can't read. I guess it's not my problem. So, to get to the main content of this video, which is what I learned regarding mortgages and buying a house. Because there's a lot of people out there who are buying their first house and they're going through a lot of the same stuff I went through. I was smart enough not to trust the assholes who are trying to take my money. So my first wife and I, we went looking for a house, and this was 2004, 2005. So it was when all that crap was going on with the 2008 mortgage fiasco, right? When the economy went to crap because people got freaking greedy. So we would go in, and there were a couple things I would say, because she was constantly going from job to job. Her income wasn't stable. I had been at the same place for quite a few years, like 5 or 6 years. I wasn't going anywhere. So my income was stable, and I would say, this estimate needs to be based on my income, not hers. And even with my income, so I probably at the time was like $8 or $9 an hour, right? And they they were telling us, oh, you can get an $85,000 house. And then I look at the payment, and it was somewhere between like $600-$700. And I was like, whoa. Okay, our rent is like $500, and that was at a upper scale. It was, my first apartment was $415 when I left, and it was a 2-bedroom apartment. I got this sweet deal. They couldn't get anybody to live there for good reason, I found out later. But still, like, I had my crap locked down. I didn't have any issues. Other people's cars were getting broken into because people don't know how to, like, apparently lock their doors at night. And anyways, we moved to this other place. It was like $500, and that was just about half of my monthly take home. And so I knew I could afford $500 a month. And they're like, oh, well, that's going to put you down at like 50 to 60,000 and blah, blah, blah. And you're not going to be able to get a good house for that. And I'm thinking, I'm not going to be able to afford a good house. Like, I knew what price range I was looking at. So that was what we stuck with. We stuck to our guns. And even the realtor. Realtors, keep in mind, they make more money the more expensive the house that you are buying is. So they don't care if you're going to lose the house in 6 months because you can't make the payment. The mortgage company doesn't care if you're going to lose the house because they get their little bonuses, they get their percentage, the closing costs, all that crap. So, I've been seeing a lot of videos of people who are like, I'm house poor, blah, blah, blah. Probably because they listen to a bunch of assholes who are cashing in on them and they don't really give a shit about the customer. They just look at what their paycheck is going to be. Because these are not people who get paid by the hour. They get paid by the number of people who are signing a little piece of paper. And the higher that mortgage is, the more they get. So, for example, and keep in mind, I'm looking at like Midwest numbers, um, small house, like a starter house, probably outside of a city. Like if you're looking at a $50,000 house, and at the time, like with the interest rates the way they were when I bought my first house, probably looking at like a $450 a month payment. Now, because it's 7%, a $50,000 house for a 30-year mortgage, estimating property taxes being between like $2,700, $3,000. Home insurance would probably, because like even this house, it was like 100, 110, something like that. You can bundle this stuff. Like you're already paying car insurance, so like another 1,200. Your monthly payment for a $50,000 house would be $656.98. So, and that is with everything included. That is if you were to lump it all together. And if you only, oh God, if you only made the payments, this is all for like 30 years. If you only made the monthly payments, you end up for a $50,000 house at 7%, $239,000, $658 for a $50,000 house. Annual payment amount is $7,883. Like, this stuff is crazy. Over 30 years, your homeowner's insurance on average would be about $36,000 that you're over 30 years. But no, that final, oh my God, that final price of $239,000, most of that is interest. That is what people don't realize when they go into this. They look at the monthly payment, they treat it like they're paying rent, and you are. You are. The interest is the rent that you're paying for your house because until you make that last payment, the bank owns it. It's as simple as that. So, just going by that number. Now, I've seen other people do this. Let's see what a $100,000 house would be at 7% interest. The interest rates, this is insane. And they don't really teach this stuff at school. I had one class in college, and it was called Mathematical Ideas. It was basically a math course for art students, people who are not going into science or anything like that. Something simple, but a lot of it was looking at interest rates, what you need to look at with mortgages. Like, it was actually a really cool class. And so they covered a lot of this stuff. And they're talking about like the compounding interest on your credit card. Like if you bought a pack of M&Ms for $1 and you only made the minimum payment, and how much that pack of M&Ms would cost you. Like, it was crazy. So if it was $100,000, 7% interest rate over 30 years, property taxes would probably be a bit more, but let's just for the sake of this keep it the same. Keep the homeowner's insurance the same and see what we get, because I'm telling, this is going to be insane. All right, so at 100,000, your monthly payment is $1,000. $30 at 7% interest. That's with zero down. So just over $1,000 a month, which some people would say like, oh, that's reasonable. I don't know what job you're working, but no, not $1,000. So the total interest, let's see here. The total amount that you would pay between the taxes, the interest, oh my God, and the homeowner's insurance, $362,000 over 30 years. It's a $100,000 house and it costs 3 times as much because of the mortgage. Yeah, that's why you get a cheap ass apartment. You save your money, which nobody does when they're young. You put a nice down payment down. Let's see what this would be if we had a down payment of 20%. Let's do 20%. So the loan amount is for $80,000. Let's see what that cuts it down to. Let's see here. Total monthly payment, $856. That's a hell of a lot better. That's with 20% down. And it's still $308,000 at the end of that 30 years. Could you imagine what you would do with an extra $200,000 in your bank account in 30 years from now? That is insane. So, the other thing that came up, inspections. Paying for these inspectors to come in and tell you what's wrong with the house so that if they find something wrong, you can come back and say like, well, the inspector found this, and that, and it's going to cost us this much to repair it. Could you come down 15 grand? It's usually how that works. But a lot of times, my advice, do not go with the inspector that is suggested by the realtor because they work together. She, in my case it was a she or he, usually they have this agreement where it's like, I bring you customers, so I've got this couple coming to look at this house, blah, blah, blah. They want to make an offer. You're going to get your $100 some odd to go look at it for an hour. You fill out the report, you hand it to me. If we make the sale, cool, more business for you. None of this is in writing, right? But the whole point is, if he does a good job for the realtor to make sure the realtor is going to get a sale, he's going to get more customers. The inspector I had, oh, douchebag. Total douchebag. He had in his contract, and of course they're like putting all these papers in front of you, and it's like, this is just for the inspection, blah, 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 and you sign it. He had in the contract that he was not liable for anything that he missed during the inspection. His job is to find stuff wrong with the house. If he's not liable for anything that he missed, what is the point of the inspection? What is it exactly? Because in my case, we had this roof, and the roof was like a 30-year roof. It was pushing somewhere between like 40, 50 years old. He never inspected the roof. And I think what ends up, this is just a guess. The house came with this insurance plan. So for an extra amount of like, I think it was like $1,500, like if anything wrong with the house happened within the first year or two, you'd call this company, they'd send a guy out and it'd be fixed. It's part of like buying the house. This was added onto it. Red flag. So immediately we get like our first big rainstorm. And the upstairs bedroom, one of the bedrooms, there's water coming through the ceiling. And we're like, what is this? Like the guy told us not in the report, like told us to our face, like it's got another 10 years. Yeah, you're good. So we call him up and we're like, hey, what's up? Well, I couldn't get up there with the ladder because I didn't have the ladder with me. So I just looked at it with binoculars and I'm like, how is that inspecting the roof? And he was like, well, I did the best job that I could and it didn't look that old, blah, blah, blah. And then he told me about what was in the contract. So then we call the insurance company. Well, the insurance company sends a guy out. He climbs up on the roof. He comes back down almost immediately and says, oh, can't touch it. Somebody patched the roof, and if it's been tampered with and it's not original, blah, 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 probably knowing we're not going to go up there because it's 2 stories up. And so they refuse to do anything, but then try charging us $50 for coming out, which we didn't pay, and they didn't argue. Kind of weird that they didn't fight for that $50. So then we end up calling the realtor because we're just like, what is going on here? Like, how did this get missed? And she was already done with us. She got the sale. She got her paycheck. We're no longer a customer. So no callbacks, nothing. Like absolutely nothing from this bitch. And at one point, my in-laws were like looking at calling a lawyer because this is fraud and blah, blah, blah. And just nothing ended up happening with any of it. Like we ended up having to pay for a new roof. We had to get a loan. Already couldn't. Luckily, we got a house that we could afford that was the same as our rent, not including utilities. Keep that in mind. Like, so we got $500 a month payment, and then there's all the other things. There's the garbage. There's now the water. There's the the electricity bill, the gas bill. Like there's all this other stuff that a lot of that was included with the rent. And now we have to afford getting a new roof put on. Inspectors are just a complete waste of time. A lot of these places require it, but again, find somebody on your own who's not connected to anybody in the deal so that it's just their job. They're coming in. Hopefully they're going to be a little more honest. And in all reality, like I would say know something about houses when you're going in, but come on. If you're like out of college, in college, if you're just straight out of high school going into work, you probably, unless you worked on stuff at home with your dad, you're not going to know too much about houses. And until you become a owner, that's when you're like, I got to start taking care of this crap myself because the furnace guy is going to charge me $300 to $400 for something that is a $20 part. Yeah. You quickly start getting all these like do it yourself, fix it at home books. You're looking up YouTube videos on your phone as to like if my furnace is doing this, what do I do? Oh. You quickly, if you don't have money, learn how to do that. And if you just don't want to do it because you don't feel comfortable, don't have a house. Keep on typing.